There's a sad story. Humanitarian crisis that's brewing in Yemen. There's a heartbreaking investigative report coming out of that place shows how dire the situation is on the ground in Yemen. Finding it's been more than 2 months since the US-backed Saudi blockade has allowed tankers packed with necessary fuel for food and supplies to reach the starving Yemeni population. Food is just sitting there, not allowed to dock because of the Saudi blockade, which is backed by the US. As a result of that, there are people there starving in Yemen. And I continue to follow that story to see where it leads. Something must be done to avoid the starving of a population. Whenever these things arise, this global political affairs and wars, which have nothing to do with the populace per se, they're the ones that get hurt. Similar to US sanctions against Cuba, which is, comes out of political action. But what ends up happening is that the people are the ones who suffer as a result of these things. So we're following that Yemen story to see how it gets resolved for the good of the people. All right, here at home, the vaccination campaign continues, and the numbers to date, as of yesterday, March 10th, we have seen some 3,699 people vaccinated on sent kits, another 1,477 vaccinated on Nevis, bringing the nation's total to 5,176 people vaccinated, which is roughly about 10% of our population. We are moving ahead, trying to get to that over 70% for herd immunity, and I am happy to see people are constantly taking the vaccine. 10% at this point, started about 2 weeks ago. We're up at about 10% of the population, which to me is hope for good things to come. When I look at the US, they are roughly about 10% of their population as well, as far as the vaccination is concerned. So we keep moving along, and it's hopeful. Speaking of COVID, the COVID-19, it has caused over 100 million confirmed cases. It's claimed more than 2.4 million lives, and even brought prosperous nations and well-run healthcare systems to their knees. Few countries have been spared. Even in the economically powerful US, the tension between maintaining social freedoms and engaging in efforts of collective defense against the virus has led to politicization, mask wearing, social distancing, some people refusing the vaccine. In our tiny nation, we have been fortunate that our leadership remained steady and worked with the health professionals, putting in place the effective mitigating measures in a timely manner that allowed us to come through this pandemic relatively untouched. It's not over, but we must admit we have done well considering our size and limited resources. No community spread, no deaths to date. But after all of this, we must not ignore the lessons learned so as to prepare us for the next crisis, whenever that will be. What we've learned over the past 12 months or so could pay off for years to come. For the past year, our country and indeed the world has been mired in this double crisis. One, a pandemic, and the other, an economic meltdown as a result of. Dealing with all of this has dominated much of our energy, our attention, and for many of us, even our emotions. But there is hope. With the world now being vaccinated, we are beginning to see some light at the end of the tunnel. We are, by and large, moving past the worst, which makes it a good time to assess the changes that have occurred. We have much to learn from our experience with the pandemic. And I would even say that there is much to gain. Let's look at some of the lessons. 1. Family matters more than we realized all along. We have seen the images of older persons living alone and having to struggle. And we need to change that. You're going to see more older people home sharing within families and co-housing across communities to avoid future situations of tragedy. We now take technology seriously. We now say things like the family that Zooms together stays together. We've seen images of children and grandchildren greeting their loved ones from outside the window. Something in between. We have unleashed a revolution in medicine. One of the biggest lessons we have learned from COVID is that the scientific community working together can do some pretty amazing things. In the past, it took 4 to 20 years to create conventional vaccines. For the vaccines out there now, Pfizer, Moderna, etc., it was a record-setting 11 months. The process may have changed forever the way drugs are developed. Technology is now our good friend, and there's no going back. Arguably, one of the biggest long-term societal effects of the pandemic will be a big switch making the digital solution our first choice. We will still cling to some of the traditional experiences, but the easy-to-use modern virtual tools will be the new default. We've been forced to learn new technologies that in many cases have been the only safe way to continue to live our lives and to stay connected to our loved ones through the pandemic. Work is anywhere now. A shift that bodes well for older Americans. One of the major impacts of the new working from home focus is that more jobs are becoming non-location specific. Necessity is the mother of reinvention. Forced to work remotely since the onset of the pandemic, millions of workers and their managers have learned they could be just as productive as they were at the office, thanks to video conferencing, high-speed internet, and other technologies. The crowds will return some point, but I guarantee you we will gather more carefully. Masks and sanitizers will be part of our norm for years to come. In the same way that airport and transportation security measures are still in place from since 9/11. You can hope for stability, but best be prepared for the opposite. COVID-19, perhaps more than any other disaster, demonstrated that we need to continue ensuring response plans are flexible and scalable. You can't predict exactly what a disaster will bring, but if you know what tools you have in your toolkit, you can pull out the right one as you need it. And finally, it puts into focus food security. The availability, sufficient quantities of appropriate, necessary type of food for domestic production and consumption, commercial imports or donations should be consistently available to individuals and within reach. However, in a disaster, in a crisis, in a pandemic, how do we make sure that we can sustain ourselves when everything else around us is in a lockdown? It brings back into focus what we talk about so many times: agriculture and agricultural policy and local production, and making sure that we have that to fall back to. Because as this pandemic has shown, everything else could go by the wayside. Everything else could be locked down at any moment. And if that happens, we are left out in the cold. And so, those are some of the lessons, among others, that we have learned from this pandemic. What about you? What have you learned? What will be different for you as we move forward, as we come out of this pandemic sometime soon, we hope? But it is important to look at where we are, what we have been through in the last year, and realize that a lot of what we depend on is in a fickle state. And we could wake up one morning without it and have to fall back on something else. So, with that, that's my take. We're going to take a break. I want to come back on the other side and give you an opportunity to join me in this conversation about the lessons learned from COVID-19.
Girl, you got some animals around here killing me. They would not keep out my yard. Can't even get food from my own garden. I'm trying to save to buy some fencing, but they're very expensive, and the cheaper ones won't keep the donkeys out.
You haven't heard that we have our own fence manufacturers right here in the Federation, and their prices are better than any place else. JNF Fencing at Long Point. Joe bought heavy fence from them that's keeping out the big animals for the same price as other places sell that light, flimsy wire that animals just push down. Plus, they can make whatever height you want, 3 feet to 10 feet. And you know what? Buying stuff made right here keeps the money in the Federation and boosts the economy. And listen, JNF Fencing is offering special prices until March 31st, you know. So call them now. The number is easy to remember. 469-4692. You got it? 469-4692. J&F Fencing at Long Point, your local chain link manufacturer.
This is my land, my island, our home. The climate has changed, it's becoming strange. We have to come together to keep her forever resilient and strong. We need slope stabilization, forest rehabilitation. Come together as a nation for drought and flood mitigation. Development with policies and plans. Let's change our ways, protect our lands. Get involved, every child, woman and man. Island resilience has got the plan. This is my land, my island, our home. It's time to come together to keep her forever resilient and strong.
Island Resilience, promoting a climate of change. The Climate Change Adaptation and Sustainable Land Management Initiative of the OECS Commission, funded by the European Union.
Welcome back to Frank and Candid. I'm Tony Niles. We are in a discussion this morning, put out for discussion, the pandemic, things we have learned from the pandemic. So we will get your take as to how things have changed for you and will change and what we need to do, and the important things that we sometimes take for granted, as in how much family matters. When we look at how those images of older folks who cannot touch their loved ones during this pandemic. Let's go take the calls, and let's hear from you. Good morning. Welcome to Frank and Candid.
Yeah, good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
I am here in the time morning walk. I don't know if you can hear me.
Can hear you. Go ahead.
Almost, and the thing, and the board just southeast, so it's the road. Now, Tony, now, what I learned from this criminal pandemic, you understand? I learned that our people got to share and got to give more, especially those who out of a job. Because you got some people who was out there in the job, and this pandemic come and take them out of job. I made to understand how much, over 5,000 people out of job in the Federation, and people who got it and could afford to share and give, let me share and give to one another. Because only so we will get out of this pandemic situation. And the younger ones, them, now, go out and find something to do. Because if they don't go out and find something to do, they end up in criminal act, but do things they want to do. So I just calling on the people them who could afford, all these people who out a job, and just blaming the government. Like, is the government put them out of job? Let me try to help one another, especially our family members. Let me try to help one another. You know? Help one. Each one help one. And that's the way I think that we'll get out of this pandemic and get out of the financial situation. And people wouldn't suffer that much. And the next thing again, with the supermarket and the stores them and so, they might get a little, Lord, I forget the word, a little compassion on the people who come in convoy. Because these are the people who serve them year in, year out. Why they can't get a little compassion from them, man? Sometimes they go in there and they jack up the price. Every week the price like a jack up. I know the situation out there in the outer world sometimes they think do. But what they don't make and what they don't get their put where, I know feeling that they could afford to sell the thing them is a lesser price to help please the people, especially those who are working. Okay, but I told you to find something else to say I'll come back.
Okay, thank you. Paula talk about more sharing, more giving, more compassion out of this pandemic. Lots of people lost their livelihoods. Businesses have closed that will never reopen. So it has taken a toll worldwide, and locally here as well. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, and good morning to the listeners home and abroad. Carl Brown here.
Let's go.
So, they have a serious crisis is happening here in the supermarket then. And the department are responsible for this. I see them in the supermarkets them on a regular basis, but donors are putting out these prices that these supermarkets is murdering the citizens with. Things are going up from $5 to $15 and more on items. This is what they're doing in this pandemic time. And I keep telling you all before the pandemic that they had done with percentage of food and things, but these supermarket shops and all these sellers are now taking way more than the 17% because they are putting on the 17% from the VAT that's supposed to be off of food. And now in the pandemic, they've gone up significantly. They put back on the VAT and they put back on some higher prices. I don't know if people checking it out every week or every 2 weeks when they go to shop. Ridiculous prices on these food stuff, so. So the people in authority, are you pleased to go check these people prices? The other thing, sir, when the Prime Minister, the government authority is going to sit down with the Chamber of Commerce, the business sector, and they start coming up along with the opposition and any interested other groups. So, because we need to come up with some job creation, thousands of people are not working, and everybody is calling you for the money. The banks are calling you for the money. The lawyers are calling you for the money for the client. Higher purchases places are calling you, and any revenue is telling you come in, come pay. Everybody want the money, and when you can't bring these people money, Marshall Bailey running you down to carry to the court. And not only that, the departments are cutting off people. Now in this pandemic time, how you going to cut off people like some water? They ain't walking. No food going in the cupboard. What they going to do? You're going to cause a crisis in the country worse than the corona pandemic. So I'm asking the government authority, please to sit down with the opposition. Please to sit down with the business sector. Please to sit down with any other organization and interested group, and are you please come up with some job creation to get people back to work, to get the economy moving. The economy is in a coma. People don't have anything to eat. People cannot even pay a bill. And those of us who are working, we still can't pay our bills. So are you please to come up with some significant ideas to get people back to work, to get the economy moving. I heard in the budget December that they say, the IMF say we're going to get a 5-point-something% growth. I don't see that happening. Because nothing is happening. How you going to get a 5-point-something% growth when you got over 2,000 people here working? The last point, not only that, the Labour Department, are you pleased to let people severance pay? People need to get things done. I go on, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, how are you, man?
I'm well. Go ahead.
Yeah, that caller there, man, he's very passionate. Yeah, man, people got to get that severance pay, man. The government got to get that severance pay released to the people, man. Really and truly, man, from an economic standpoint, it's as if like the whole world need a reset, man. Because poor people are going to stay poor. Those grocery stores and all those big companies who's accustomed to making all that profits, you know, they need to be a little bit compassionate on people because people need to eat. And I don't see why, you know, instead of making 100% profit like they normally do, man, there should be like a downward slide. It's okay if they make 60% profit. They don't have to make that profit like how they normally do. But the government got to come up with a plan. People got to get some type of other work than tourism. I believe they got to diversify. They got to come up. There's one of the specific caller that we calling him. He always said, the government got to come up with a plan. They got to come up with a plan. They got to put people to work in some other areas. They got to diversify the portfolio, bro. They cannot just go back to tourism 100%. The way I would see it, man, inside St. Kitts and Nevis, if there was 500 people working in the tourism industry, the government need to find a way to cut it back and let it only be 250, or gradually build that number up. When the tourism industry start coming back, gradually, you know, merge the people back in with the amount of people going back into that field to work. You know, but differently, man, the government cannot afford to sit there and let the post-COVID era be like a failed New Year's resolution. And I already don't see it, man. They're just sitting and waiting to go right back to tourism. So the post-COVID era is going to be like a failed New Year's resolution, bro. They said that they're going to do certain things, but once the economy starts creeping back in, they're going to go right back into tourism fully.
Okay.
But different than that, man, you guys enjoy yourself, man. Have a good day.
You too. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to Frank and Candid.
Good morning, cousin.
Hey, good morning, family. What's up?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What's up? The sun and the breeze is up. They're coming down.
Okay.
Now, we had King Tourist. That was sugarcane. He dead. And we resort now to human tourism and ground farming. Well, we see what Dr. Mr. COVID has done to us. He make everybody sick. Nobody at all employing people because of Mr. COVID. And Mr. COVID teach us a lesson. It is not the normal. This is a new norm. We all have to accept changes and adjust. Well, the government is doing the part. We're helping in whichever corner or angle they can help, economically, financially. Well, now it's these private businesses around the place now. They're now supposed to look at the government and follow the government. And when they follow the government, well, everybody would be on target and part to help where they can help. Now, for people who owe, all they have to do, whatever little money you can pay who you owe, pay them, go in and talk with them, sit down and talk with them, because everybody know that Mr. COVID make everybody cut back on your pocket. Whether you have or you don't have, cut back. And Tony, hear this now. I have been saying this thing here for years. Now, we're going on what? 6 years since I've been saying it. The government have too many round pegs in round hole. When it's not square peg, they got toilet paper in water cistern tank hole to stop the water from leaking out. How toilet paper could stop water from coming out the tank? You have to pull out that and put in the right plug. Saying that to say they have too many people at head position in the government service, and they're hampering and messing up a lot of people, deliberately doing it because of political reasons. You're gonna tell me a place like HR, so many complaints gone into HR for people who work, can't get the money, and people, some people ain't going to work every day. Go and sign in and go back home, go plati and all up and down the street, and they're getting the money every month. That cannot be right. It's the government minister that's supposed to come in the thing and look at your payroll book. They got people in these departments controlling the department, but they're letting their friend them get away with this nonsense. And people who are going into work, honestly, they're pressuring them in there. Those are the scrape the government got in round hole. You got to put people in position who can do their work professionally. Don't take no side with nothing. When a man work, he must be paid. Who ain't work, you don't get paid. The Bible says so. You better pull up a ice axe and scrape it and toilet paper while you got to plug up hole, you know. And you know definitely for them one, there would have been no government called unity. Thank you, Tony.
Okay. Back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome.
Hi, good morning, Tony. How are you?
I am well.
Okay, my concern is, though, for the persons who would have lost their jobs because of the tourism, they're in the tourism sector.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know there was a stimulus package, and, that was just for 2 months and whatever. We were thankful for it. But what my concern is, I think the PAP, that $500 thing,
mm-hmm.
I think that the Prime Minister needs to look into that. Some persons, the jobs are not affected. They are working still, and they're still getting the PAP. So to me, the Prime Minister needs to put something in order there and look out for those persons in the tourism sector who are not working, because you find some persons, maybe husband and wife in the tourism sector, and nobody working. So no income coming in nowhere at all, and those persons, their jobs are not affected, and they're still getting the PAP, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
To me, they need to look into that.
I got you.
That's my concern. Yeah, they need to check on that.
Okay.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Another call?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tony, that's the same thing I just said. But let me come back in lemon storm and support this lady here who said that, Tony, I get report from the time the $500 come unseen. I have been getting calls or report. I say, well, you got a phone call the radio too. No call me to tell me your problem. But I am concerned because you know what it is? It is wrong. The people who was supposed to check the application for these things, I don't think they did a thorough job. And the people who applied for it, I don't think so. And if they did, a lot of curry favor went on there. Because I know people who are working for nearly 3,000, nearly twice 3,000 pounds, and they're getting the 500, and them a walk on a boast and a brag. And people who ain't even getting cran and knock, they ain't getting that day, and they apply for it. That shouldn't be so. Them are the scraping up there who doing stupidness. And I consider that when you check it out, basically, that is wrong, and it is a form of stealing. You ain't qualified. How are you gonna get it? That they need to revamp, and let the minister themselves overlook the application in the final end. You need to shake up. You can tell me you're getting 7,000 or 5,000 a month, and you're applying for 500, and somebody who just getting nothing. You sweep in jail now, such a way you're getting and you apply and you can't get it, is because of who they got in the position to overlook these applications and these positions here, this situation. Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
You better listen, Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So a whole lot coming out of those calls there. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Talking a lot about agriculture. The Department of Agriculture that is in my mind was established to promote, to assist farmers promote and develop agriculture. Today the department operates as a commercial business, even competing with farmers. Tell you something, post-COVID, farmers, we're talking a lot about what the government doing. Post-COVID, farmers bought 100 pounds empty fertilizer from the Department of Agriculture for $70. Today, go to the department and you'd pay for a bag of 55 pounds for $65. That's some math. It's like the people's money is not being used at this time. The administrators don't realize that the world has changed, is a new beginning, and they got to stop thinking about what's coming. The stimulus, in my view, is like they're taking it back. All the prices gone up. It's a farmer extortion. Now I can tell you about jobs. In Kayan, the youngsters in Kayan were told to stay home. And the PEP program were told to stay home until further notice. Now listen about it. These men claim to be 400 strong. They ain't talking about the cubs and the females. These people must have been, the 23 must have been, must have contributed to the 23 votes that Eugene Hamilton won by, to send them home. People, their families who work for the industry that are now at home, that is depending on them. I don't know if the people realize what they're really doing. This is not time. The government need not to be taking out money from the peoples actually who consume to stimulate the economy. You must put the money in the people who's going to be spending it. It comes right back in the treasury. You can't be taking it back. I will tell you something. When you don't plan, you plan to fail. And they had no plan. Doug had a plan. I hope the election comes soon because we can't keep up this. None of these people, agriculture is dead. The access roads to the farms, you can't get to them. They wash out. Why? Ain't nobody in agriculture, is no attention being paid, is a lot of talk. Enjoy the rest of your day.
So do you. All right, let's go back to the phones. Good morning, welcome. Okay, we lost that caller. All right, good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm coming in here. Listen here. There are people who getting $3,000 and up are getting the $500. Next thing what happens? There are people presently now who getting full pay who pay a month. And some people is not getting himself one. That is not right. And I'm telling you, they're getting the pension, they're working on the pet, they're working on bank machine, and they're still working, they're still, where the next one be? With four payment a month. And it is not right. I've been marvel about that for the longest while. You understand? And somebody has and they're getting the $500. And you understand? This is time people have to look into it. And it is wrong. And every month, me hear people cry, people come to me, people talk, they working, the people who are working, getting the $500. And getting, when one time comes, they getting more. It is wrong. Tony, see you here. Thank you and get my call.
All right, see you. Okay, go back to the phones. Good morning, welcome.
Yeah, Tony.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to the last caller, we're calling before the gentleman. We just come out of the phone. So we really had a plan. Because his plan was to keep people into work politically. Because I know people had farm and the children never go to school and farm and I get money from the PEP program. So he really had a plan. And he leader is the one who caused young people not to want to work now. You know? Because it started by him. Now, this unity government get in and try to bring this program, a program to people supposed to, when they train, they go out there and find a skill and go move on and go look a job. Not just burden on government all the time. You understand? But now he come in and talk about Dougie really had a plan. And he really had a plan for you. Because the plan was to keep the people paying doing the work, the young people because of political favors. And that was the real plan. So I want this unity government to continue to do what they got to do, to keep people into job and see people work for the money and everything. Everything ain't gonna be perfect. But Tony, a lot of loose things in government were happening for you that need to look attending to. And I believe that it is time now that whosoever in charge of this position look at the country. Now look at, if you see the whole world with this pandemic. This pandemic ain't easy. You understand? And I call in and family members and friends. If you could help someone, government can't do all. We got the government, they got hospital, they got the police. They got all kind of different things to do. What you all want government do? They cannot do all. They give back a stimulus package after the country closed down. What you want the government do? All right, Tony.
Okay. All right, we're going back to the phones. Say good morning. Welcome to Frank and Candid.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
As I listen to everyone vent their concern, okay, I could tell you there are corrupt. Every political party, every government has corruption in their party. But to touch and two concerns that someone spoke about. Look, in respect to the stimulus, in respect to pension, in respect to who's making what and what is what. Look, do you agree with me that every citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis has a social security number?
Mostly.
Now, should that be, if payment to go here and payment to go here, to different people, if a person is working, when a person works, does they pay tax? No. If the government has proper administration, wouldn't they be able to track all the monies that...
Okay. think we may have lost that caller. Let's go to the next one. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am well.
Politics couldn't say it any better. You have some farmers have the produce at a certain price, right? For instance, like you might sell a potato for $5 or $10 a pound. And in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, those provisions are still in the sun. They only then send us on, okay, me carry the price to about $2 to $3 to go back home with them on the weekend and come back Monday to sell the same produce. So some of these farmers and so on is just as bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Nair.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. I was listening to a program this morning, the ECCB Digital Dialogue, and they were talking about the pandemic and our response to it, with a concentration on energy. Okay. And they were basically saying that we have to concentrate on that because we need to recover, build resilience, and transform our economies. And basic to that is energy. Okay, we need to diversify our energy and decentralize it, right? And in that, planning is essential. And that is where I think we're lacking. Because, as they point out, it's not going to be any one area that we should concentrate on. We have to look at practically all of them: solar, geothermal, wind, and even some fossil, and of course the waste to energy. All right, and we can't help but wonder what position we would have been in if we hadn't pursued, especially things like geothermal, more aggressively, instead of now being behind the 8 ball and having to catch up, right? And so I think those are the things, the discussions that we should really be having now, because we're now in a situation where funds are short, financing is hard to get. Whatever we have, we should target priority areas to make sure that we get the biggest bang for our buck. You should really relook the funds that we have, whether it's the $31 million for peace or whatever, and try to target that to people who need it most, right? People who need it most. We can't now afford to be allocating resources to folks who already have means of support, right? And so a lot of that requires going back to the drawing board, planning, doing the necessary surveys to make sure that people are not left behind. That is the critical thing, right? We have to be more targeted in our approach to the people who were mostly affected by the pandemic. And they raised that issue this morning. Even in considering our energy responses, we have to make sure that we don't end up with a lot of haves and have-not in the energy sector, where only people who have money can afford, for instance, the cost of panels and installing the storage and that sort of thing, and then people who, the rest of the population is left out. Okay, so I think it's something worth, I don't know if it's going to be rebroadcast, but it's something worth hearing and considering as to our responses after COVID. All right, then.
Yeah, I actually agree with that caller. That is a focus we need to take a look at, energy, and I don't think we're paying enough attention to that. It's a subject we're going to have to talk about. Maybe next week we'll touch on that some more. Our energy policy and energy focus could be important. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I got cut off at a point of time when I was trying to get my point across. Okay, as I listen, everyone views their concern of what's going on in the country. think there is a lot of corruption and there are high division politically. For instance, now in respect to the stimulus that I've heard different views, if I were to say, am I correct that if every citizen in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis have a social security number?
Mostly.
You could answer it for me.
Mostly.
Now, with the stimulus package, does the government, when they're issuing money from the treasury, isn't a social security number should have to that to say, okay, Tony, whatever your name, your social security number, to know you are the right person who own the social security number getting amount, X amount, whatever the benefit is.
So he's not.
Now, if there are more people who do not qualify to get whatever qualified monies or grants, they are tracked by a social security number. So if there are corruption, who should get and who should not get, and who should not get, then they could be tracked. So with the allegations that are made until it's proven to be a factual one, why would someone who do not qualify to get a benefit get that benefit? I think it is a poor decision by the administrative system. Okay? The Prime Minister cannot do everything at once. But with what is going on, what has been said, there has to be an audit. And there are people who should be held accountable for misappropriation of grants or funds. Am I correct with that?
Fair enough.
Okay. So if that is not happening, you're going to find there are going to be loopholes until somebody has been brought, or all who are involved will be brought to an account of what they did. Moving from that, and I hope administrative organization are listening. And it doesn't matter whether it's a government or if it's a private sector.
Gotcha.
I didn't went to business school, but I use common sense. And my common sense came from St. Kitts because I'm a national. I'm a citizen. Now, the other thing is St. Kitts and Nevis are politically divided. I was down there and I did my observation, I did my exploration, however you may want to call it. Politically divided. If I do not support you, whatever the benefits are to be given to those who support you, it should be given to both. The government should be a government for all and not political. It doesn't matter because you cannot expect everyone to support you. Even those who are against you, they should get equal support as those who are for you. You are a government of the people. Okay? And you have to be by the people because the people is who put you there. Okay? Mind you, I'm not picking fights. I'm just making my view.
Okay.
The other thing is, I'm going to
thing?
elaborate a certain area.
We got some callers, so quickly caller.
Okay. I'm going to elaborate on Molyneux. Molyneux water system need to be fixed, improved, and upgrade. It is lousy. I have documentation of Molyneux water reservoir system. It needs to be fixed immediately. Water is the greatest thing on planet Earth. It is more precious than silver, gold, or diamond.
Okay.
And as a result of that, it should be taken care of immediately.
All right, got your point.
And I hope it does by when I...
We got to go to another caller. Let's take the next call. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
This is Dumpling speaking.
Yes, Dumpling, good morning.
I died on another case. About 3 years ago, my representative for Central Bastille, when they was cleaning out the house up here, we was on a piece of land. We had a speech. He made a speech and said, when we don't try to get the land clean off, that we the children them could play and we get some bench and put there for wherever and wherever. Up to today, the land is not clean up. Because a casualty going on in the road. Come out of the little piece of land, come over. I met my minister and I told him about it. He came to me like this and said, he went on by the place down here, by the garden, the town where we name, environment town where we name. And they said they don't do them kind of thing. But if you know that, go to the Minister of Health and let her get, try to help him to try to clean. You understand? The place all in the tree and them. Mama cut the tree and look for that and got a minister. He met me in December and asked me if the people them come up here. I said, what people you asking me about? God, I don't get rest now. You understand? And he's not coming. The only time he come up here is when he gain out the Christmas card. And they look like they rest with me. Because when I come on the register and I talk things were happening, they don't rest now. They just rest when I talk. But as a minister, anybody you could come up here, when you leave from there, they said, Joy, come up by the governor, come up the road, and you see what me dumpling talking about. And make a fellow named Chapicon or something like so. I mean, it must be last week, Friday. He tried to bring some boys up here to clean up. But the land is more than the match of them. This is the one like a backhoe to put up. You understand? And I'm disappointed with the minister. I'm disappointed with him. And they better watch the case, you know. They better watch the case, card. But I done here on the word that Nital coming, you know. And if Nital coming, I with Nital. See you. This is Dumpling.
Alright, Dumpling, see you. Okay, let's go back to the phones. Good morning, welcome to Frank and Candid.
Good morning again, Mr. Nair.
Good morning.
Carl down here.
Yes, Carl.
And my neighbor is so right. This little piece of park for the children need desperately cleaning. I have been down to Step when it was Step. I have been to when they come Pep. I have been to parks and beaches for the past 3 years. And they fail to come and do the work. I have been to the minister. I have been on talk shows. I have been in town hall meetings. And nobody is doing the work. And the Prime Minister like to say, go to the functionaries, but the functionaries ain't functioning. People just trying up to make the hours and make the payday to get paid. No function at all is going on. Now, the other thing is, we are asking, when are these auxiliary workers are going to be connected to the government service which has been promised by the government and the Prime Minister since in the first term? Those people need to be looked after, and they got a lot of people working very hard in the civil service, and therefore many years are not appointed.
It's coming, it's coming.
Please look after the people in mind, or you look after the people. I used to talk to Dr. Denzel Douglas and Labour here. You see what they be? In the political wilderness for a very long spell. Mind, or you look after all your people. The last thing, they came out with the cut just before the last election, last year, May, June. Many of us have signed up for it a second time, including me. We're not hearing any word on that. Our salary is very, very small. Ain't even $2,400. We need to get our assistance. We have earned it. I'm gone, sir.
Okay. Back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to Frank and Candid.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
He had a caller and talking about Dougie had a plan. Dougie maybe had ice plan, but saying she's saying on an ice plan, the more he had a plan. His plan was to melt. But Team Unity government have planned, concrete plan to build, not to destroy. So that is why people went to the poll and vote them out, because the plan was ice plan. The plan didn't work. So congratulations to the Team Unity government and Prime Minister, you keep on doing the best. And if anybody in St. Kitts like cut, that they are calling what is because the government in St. Kitts govern the light and the water. And when I see some people, tell them they're lucky to all the money. Some people maybe get affected by the pandemic, but some people never paying light bill before. And the government have to pay the workers them. The skilled workers them ain't just go and put up a lamp post and change light bulb. A part of the job is to disconnect and connect. So it's going and work it out because the government lose a lot too. The government lose big income because they were depending on tourism. Just like when anybody go out there and lose the income too, and they have to pay skilled workers. If I got a little $50, pay something. I don't want nobody to cut on nobody in darkness, but come on, some people don't want to pay no light bill at all. Give the government some. So a little $5, when you pay something, they ain't gonna cut you. Not this government here, what I support. I gonna pay something, man, because I had, and the government too, because they got to pay skilled workers and family too. You understand what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
The government lose a big income too because they were depending on tourism. And the tourists ain't coming no more. So when I get a little $50 per something, man, when I see some people be calling worthless, the guy is so good in saying it. $3,000-$4,000 one man off. And you mean you can't put a little thing? And the government don't work. Come on, man.
Okay.
I must like a conscience be alright. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We got another caller. Let's take this call.
Yes, Mr. Candy.
Yes.
The Prime Minister had no call to come on the air and tell us that we be waiving light bill and water bill. He should have told us at the beginning pay what he could afford, and then our light bill would have never get away. So because we thought when he used the word, some of us didn't understand. We thought he said he giving it that we're gonna get it free for the 6 months. So when them come and they're saying what they're saying, they who don't know it feeling it. And I think that it's time for us to rest politics aside and talk something else. Politics is still going on.
Okay. Back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome.
Yes, good morning again.
Yes.
Listen, the energy crisis throughout this world could be easily solved. Believe it or not. You see, we all depend on, we make ourselves too dependable, especially in these modern days. Look, every household, should it be, and the technology is here with me, the technology is out there. Every household can generate their own electricity. And it's simple. Electricity was there before we born. Electricity is in the universe. Okay? I have done, and I have created a model that every household can have their own power source. And I'm not talking about fossil fuels. I'm not talking about geothermal. And I'm not talking about hydro. So I have to know what I'm talking about. Okay? You see all those lamp poles with light, with wires coming to the house? They're going to be obsolete. They are obsolete to me. Okay? Because every household, if they get the technology, which is cheap and simple, every household. So all like the power suppliers that supplying powers in St. Kitts, and that big power plant that is in Connery, all those will be obsolete because the technology is there for each and every one to generate their own power. And I'm going to tell you something.
So we gotta go. Quickly.
If you touch live wire, you're going to get shock. And it's the same principle. Okay? Every household can have their own power plant.
Okay. All right. That's it. Oh, we got a final call. You got 30 seconds. Go ahead. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, quickly. You got a final caller.
Hey, Tony, all of them, they're talking about government this and government.
Okay, well, that's going to do it then. All right, that's going to make a wrap for today. Thank you all for your input. Some great inputs there from across the board. Lots of things to look at, and we'll look at them. We'll talk about some of them in the coming days and weeks. But I thank you all for your input and suggestions and so on. My name is Tony Nice, and we will be back the next time, if it is to be, right here for more conversation on Frank and Candid.
Courts applauds the essential workers for their commitment in the fight against COVID-19. To say thank you, for a limited time, essential workers can shop online with shopcourts.com/Senkits and get an additional 10% off with the